Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, all.
Morning, Patrick.
Good morning, all.
Morning.
I'd like to welcome you to another Thursday morning of the Rotary Club of Nassau Sunrise program this morning. I'd like to start this morning's program off with a prayer, and I'd like to invite Rotarian Sharia to give us an invocation for this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
O Lord, thou giver of all good, we thank thee for our daily food. May Rotary friends and Rotary ways help us to serve thee all our days. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. We'll now have our the Loyal Toast by Director Patrick.
Morning. Please lift your glasses, your mugs, to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
The Commonwealth of the
To the
Bahamas.
Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you, Patrick. I'd like to welcome our Secretary, Akima, to give us our welcome to our Rotarians and guests, visiting guests this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, welcome everyone to our Rotary Club of Nassau Sunrise morning meeting. I am coming to you live from the Dubai Air Show. I don't know if you can hear the planes in the background, but it's a very large aviation event that I'm sure Gwen could appreciate. So I'm checking the chats, and we have visiting with us past President Elisa. Sorry, not Elisa. Yeah, no visiting Rotarians, but we do have a number of guests. So I would leave it open to members to introduce their guests.
Good morning. I'd like this is Yvonne. I'd like to introduce my guest, Kelly Nixon, for a third time. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President. Allow me to introduce my guest, Mr. Howard Newbold, the noted former teacher administrator, probably someone who tanned a couple of backsides to people in this room already, and proud member of the Breakfast Club.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes, good morning. Morning, President Harris. I'd like to welcome Nicolette Gardner, who is about to become a member of the club. We received her application. Her dues are duly paid, or application fee rather. And you'll hear from us very soon. I don't know if Dr. Rob will be introducing his guest. You realize that she's on, but also we received an application from Archeline O'Brien of BTVI, and her application will be brought to the board and to the club very soon. But we welcome them, hopefully, the final time as guests of Nassau Sunrise. Welcome and do enjoy the meeting.
Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Welcome.
Good morning, all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are we missing anyone?
Okay, if that is all, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you again all for joining us this morning.
Okay, I see a few persons online. Archeline O'Brien, did we mention?
Yes, I just mentioned her.
Okay, my apologies. All right.
That's okay that you mentioned me again.
No, thank you.
Good to be here.
Yes,
welcome.
we're
Welcome.
excited to have you here.
Yes. I'll now turn it over to our Director of Administration to give us an announcement for our raffle this morning. Director Tunisia.
Good morning again, everyone. Happy Thursday. So this morning's raffle prize is on your screen. It's a smartwatch. It's compatible with Android and Apple devices. You can use it for health monitoring, Bluetooth calls. It's a smartwatch, so you can use it for just about everything. So we're going to be raffling off this nice smartwatch this morning for 1 ticket for $5 and 3 tickets for $10. You can purchase your tickets in the chat. Please do support our raffle. Thank you very much. Back to you, President Therese.
Thank you very much, Tunisia. I'd like to welcome now our Sergeant of Arms this morning, Kendrick, to give that jokes and fines for this morning.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. Hope everyone's doing good this morning. So I came across a story the other day, Mr. President. It was an interesting story about a husband who was looking for his wife. Some of you may have heard this story. His wife went to rescue some people from a flood and she didn't come home. So husband went to the police station. The police officer asked the husband, "What's her height?" And the husband said, "I'm not sure. She's a little over 5 feet tall." So she's not slim, not really fat, I don't know. Police said, "Okay, what's the color of her eyes?" The husband said, "Well, I think it's sort of brown. Never really noticed." Police said, "Color of her hair?" Husband said, "Changes couple of years, maybe brown, dark brown, I can't remember." So the police said, "What's she wearing?" So the husband said, "Pants, skirt, I don't know exactly." And then he said, "What kind of car did she go in?" So the husband said, "She went in my Jeep." Police said, "What kind of Jeep it was?" So the husband said, "It's a 2010 Rubicon with Sprindex supercharger with intercooler, Diablo Sport T1000, shocks, LED lights, hard cage, rock hard Under Armour, Poison Spider sliders, Terraflex Performance Slot, Terraflex bump stops." And the husband started really crying at this point. So the police said, "Okay, don't worry, buddy. We'll help you find your Jeep." Mr. President, I know several mics are closed right now, but I'm gonna find the members. I'm gonna find the members who didn't laugh at that joke. I worked hard on that one.
Excellent.
Especially for Akima this morning. So I'll find the members who didn't laugh. And also I definitely have to find Akima for being at this air show and not panning the camera to show us, any of the sites. And I think I heard we didn't introduce the dog guest this morning, Mr. President. I think that was coming from your mic. That definitely was a dog when we started the meeting.
Yes, that was me. That was me.
Okay, so
I'll get a fine for that one now.
Yeah, I'm going to fine you $5 for animal cruelty because that dog is definitely hungry. You probably need to feed the dog. But that's it, Mr. President.
Yeah. Thank you. I was hoping you guys didn't hear the dog, but obviously you did. All right. The raffle, please put your raffle amount in the chat so we can have a good showing this morning in terms of the raffle prizes. An awesome raffle prize for a smartwatch. Please participate in a raffle this morning. Next, I would like to invite Director Gwen to give us our birthdays and anniversaries this morning. Gwen?
Hi, good morning all. So today we had celebrate a birthday yesterday, the 17th. We had Rotarian Giselle Cargo So we want to wish her a happy birthday and hope she had a fabulous day. That's our only one. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Appreciate it. I'd like to open now the floor to any announcements from the club. Please, if you have any announcements you'd like to give, please do so at this very moment.
Well, good morning, Sunrisers. We are in week 3 of Foundation Month and just 12 days away from our Foundation Gala, which will be held virtually on November 30th. There are still some unassigned points available. Those persons who are desirous of qualifying for Paul Harris, please PM me today. Let's see how we can get you qualified. Those who have not yet submitted a photo, please do so as quickly as possible as we are winding down. And of course, we have to make preparation for that wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you,
please, Pop, I want Sarge to find the past president for using these fancy terms he doesn't know the meaning of. Let me PM you. What you know about PM?
What I know about PM? Mm-hmm. What you know about PM?
I'm too old for that to know anything.
I'm moving up.
Okay, I have a notice. Yeah, President Therese, just a quick notice. I don't know how the club feels about getting back together. Well, we want to do a social, a fellowship before the end of the year, of course, responsibly. So we're looking at December 12th. It's going to be like a brunch with social distancing, of course, all protocols in place, vaccination, if you're not vaccinated, mask, and so on. So we're looking at a venue, but if that venue doesn't work out, it will be at my home. And so I'd like you to diarize it, December 12th, for a fellowship together as a club. Some of us have not seen each other in 2 years. So it would be great to see some of you again in person. And so please reach out to me and let me know if this is something you'd like to participate in, so that we can make provisions for everyone. And if the space that I have would not be adequate, then we'd look at another venue. But let's see how many people are willing to get back together for a nice fellowship, December 12th.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. This is Simone from Public Image. I would just like to put all of you on notice about a project that we are about to embark on, and that is to capture you as our members telling your Rotary story. We have a wonderfully diverse club, and we want to capture your Rotary experiences crossing all of the generations. So from those that know about what PM is and DM,
oh Lord,
all the way to those who, we won't make any other references. But we want to just put you on notice that we will be doing a video shoot day and on a schedule, and we'll reach out to you very shortly so that you can begin to craft your story and come ready, camera ready, and this is with all your makeup and everything else on, and so that you can be a part of this campaign that we will share through our social media outlets for the rest of next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Are there any other?
Yes, one more from me. Today at 1:20, the GHS Interact Club will be meeting. Their guest speaker will be our one and only IPP Francis, and she'll be speaking on the foundation. So if you need a makeup, if you know someone who's not here and need a makeup, reach out to them and join us today at 1:20 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. If there aren't any other announcements this morning, I would now invite past President Delicia to give us our Rotary Minutes for this morning.
Hi, good morning, Sunrise. Our Rotary Minute this morning is tolerance of differences. Occasionally, there is a temptation to criticize the laws, customs, and traditions of another country, which may seem strange or contrary to our own. In some instances, illegal practices or customs of one nation are completely lawful and acceptable in another. As members of an international organization dedicated to world understanding and peace, it behooves Rotarians to exercise restraint in judging our Rotary friends and citizens from other countries when their behavior seems unusual to us. A Rotary policy has existed for more than half a century relating to this dilemma of international relationships. The statement, adopted in 1933, says that because it is recognized that some activities and local customs may be legal and customary in some countries and not in others, Rotarians should be guided by this admonition of tolerance. Rotarians in all countries should recognize these facts, and there should be a thoughtful avoidance of criticism of the laws and customs of one country by the Rotarians of another country. The policy also cautions against any effort on the part of Rotarians of one country to interfere with the laws or customs of another country. As we strive to strengthen the bonds of understanding, goodwill, and friendship, these policies still provide good advice and guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, PP Delicia. And I hope we've learned something from the Rotary Minute this morning. It was an awesome one in terms of learning with tolerance about differences. Membership Spotlight this morning will be read by a Rotarian, Leah Carla.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. I am pleased this morning to do a member spotlight on Dr. Tonya Ferguson. Dr. Ferguson is an educator by profession. She obtained both of her undergraduate degrees at the College of the Bahamas, a Master of Science degree in Human Resources at Barry University, and her doctorate degree in Educational Leadership at the University of the West Indies. Dr. Ferguson has been teaching for more than 20 years, most of those as a public school teacher. According to Tonya, the best of those years were served in Sandy Point, Abaco at J.A. Pinder Primary. The remainder were in New Providence. In 2015, she left the public system and joined the staff at St. Andrews International School. During her tenure at J.A. Pinder Primary in Abaco, Dr. Ferguson was instrumental in supplying reading and math textbooks for grades 3 through 6. She was also a writer for the island's newspaper, The Abaconian. Captivated by the island's beauty, she applied for and was awarded a scholarship to attend the island school in Cape Eleuthera, where her love for nature blossomed. Upon her return to Sandy Point, Abaco, she served as a volunteer instructor for the school's Discovery Club. Additionally, on a quest to further assist the small school in Sandy Point, Dr. Ferguson served as District 7020's Rotary Group study exchange student in Arizona for 1 month, where the Rotary Club in Arizona presented her with a matching grant for a community library in Sandy Point. With a firm belief in purposeful living and a passion to die as vapor, Dr. Ferguson intentionally leads a busy life because she's convinced that she has a unique gift to offer to others. Having encountered a challenge locating appropriate instructional charts for her class, in 2013, Dr. Ferguson began a home-based company, The Charted Course. The company creates and prints instructional charts for teachers. Those charts were made available to the public in 3 local retail stores, John Bull Business Center, BUT Teachers Mart, and Teachers Mart. Realizing that her life is a gift to others, she seeks to encourage developing the whole individual. Therefore, her students are taught to focus on spiritual principles, becoming involved physically through sports clubs, become a part of social clubs like Junior Achievement, K-Kids Club, and gardening. She also implores them to thrive academically. Dr. Ferguson is at her best when she is helping others. Upon returning to New Providence, Dr. Ferguson joined the Rotary Club of Nassau Sunrise, where she served in the capacity of club director and club secretary. I hope you enjoyed this member spotlight this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah Carla. That was an awesome spotlight on Tanya. She is an awesome Rotarian who's done fabulous work for our community as well as for this club. So when she's online this morning, but I just want to thank her for her service that she's continuously done for our youth. Right now, I'd like to invite PAG Mario to introduce our guest speaker for this morning.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. It is a pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for this morning, who is our very own Assistant Governor Carla Card Stubbs. Assistant Governor Carla Card Stubbs is an attorney at law, and she is originally from Jamaica, but has lived and worked in several islands of the Caribbean. She now lives in Nassau, Bahamas, which is home. In the Bahamas, she teaches law to student attorneys at the Eugene DePuch Law School. The Eugene DePuch Law School is one of 3 regional schools run by the Council of Legal Education, which prepares students for admission to the practice of law in the Commonwealth Caribbean. AG Carla is also a trained mediator and arbitrator. In 2016, she obtained her real estate license and is a licensed real estate sales agent. In her spare time, AG Carla enjoys traveling, reading, public speaking, hiking, and community service. AG Carla started her Rotary journey as a member of the Rotary Club of Roadtown in the British Virgin Islands in January 2000. When she moved to Nassau in January 2003, she immediately sought out a Rotary home. She joined the Rotary Club of Nassau Sunrise, serving on the board in various capacities, and as club president in 2009 to 2010. AG Carla also served at the area level, district level, in various capacities. She's a certified Rotary Leadership Institute discussion leader and a District 7020 PETS trainer. On July 1, 2020, she assumed the role of Assistant Governor for Bahamas West. She is married to Mr. Felix Stubbs of the Bahamas, a fellow Sunriser, a retired business executive who is also a Rotarian and is a past district governor for District 7020. They are both members of the Paul Harris Society, Level 2 major donors, and Level 4 bequest society members. Fellow Sunrisers and guests, please join me in welcoming our very own AG Carla Card Stubbs.
Thank you, PAG Mario. Good morning, Sunrisers.
Good morning, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be welcomed in my own club. Thank you. So this morning, the pleasure is mine to speak about how to donate through your estate to our charity of choice, the Rotary Foundation. So let's see if we can share some thoughts. But this is going to be interactive. So this is what I'm going to ask at the very beginning. If you had your way as a Rotarian, is there any project or any area that you would like to see, that you would like to impact, that you would like to make a contribution to? that you would like to, if you have the time, sink your teeth in? I want you to think about that for 20 seconds. And then in 10 seconds, write it in the chat. What area, what part of community, what cause, what thing would you like to sink your teeth, your resources in? Can you just put it in the chat, please? So I have an idea of why Rotary. And we're going to speak about the foundation. Why the foundation? Because the foundation really is what allows us to do what people know as Rotary work, quite apart from our own contributions. So I'm going to give you 15 seconds to put that in the chat. And I'm actually pausing so I can see it in the chat. Literacy, numeracy initiative, economic development, education and agriculture, youth swimming, noise. Anything else? Disaster recovery, environmental and economic development. Nicolette, you're shaping up to be a really nice Rotarian. Nice. Anybody else? We have 44 persons, excluding myself. Mentorship. If you had your way, what one community service project then, let me put it at that level, would you like to see happen? Education, renovate all the children's homes. Sunrise? Nobody else? International Rotary? 3 more, at least. I feel like I'm talking to my students, you know, when they disappear behind the cameras, except they're not allowed to because our policy is cameras on. But I'm hoping persons are there and I will respond. What community service project? Women in crisis? 2 more? 1, 2. Island cleanup, education, literacy, running water system for urban communities. All right, good stuff. If you think about it, peace, conflict resolution, now we're going there. Support youth exchange. If you think about it, unless you haven't told the rest of us, our own resources are often not sufficient to do the things that we would like to do. We like to say, be the change we'd like to see, but that usually means having a community. It usually means pooling with persons. It usually means partnership to do that. And so I want that to be a running thought during this presentation, because you know about the Rotary Foundation. And so the question is, okay, so we give while we're alive. Why would we want to even give after we've gone? So this is some of our conversation today. Just a reminder about the foundation, why it exists, why it is our charity of choice. And then we have a discussion about leaving a legacy. And there are 2 ways I'm going to speak about today. There are more, but there are 2 ways that are particularly, I think, of relevance to us in this region. I'm hoping you'll hear this video. Can you hear? Yeah?
Yes, we can hear.
Thank you. So that video is a little bit dated, but it reminds us how continuous the work is. It's actually, it gives us the statistics for 2018, 2019. So 2 years out. But it means that we could have done that work because money had been poured in long before that. And for us in Rotary, the Rotary Foundation is our charity of choice. It's what connects us. So I thought I'd just go back here to say, remember that we're Rotary International, but also the things that Rotarians can get to do by being able to turn to greater resources largely come through the foundation. So in the very first beginnings in 1917, and I'm going back here because this takes vision. That video spoke about legacy, and this is the legacy of an outgoing president who said, you know, we need to do something. Yeah, we're rotating our meetings. Yeah, we're doing all right in our communities, but we need to do good in the world. And actually, this is how the Rotary Foundation was formed. He proposed an endowment fund, and there was an initial contribution of $26.50, and that's where it began. One man, one vision, one step, an injection of capital to create a legacy. As a reminder, why the TRF? So we talk about the charity, charitynavigator.org, which perhaps doesn't mean a lot to us, but this is an independent resource that fact checks, that investigates charities internationally, but especially in the United States. So I checked it just this morning just to see how we're doing and decided to take a screenshot because we hear it, but I don't know that sometimes it resonates with us. And the highest rating they can give, of course, is 4 stars. And if you go in and you check it and you have the link there, it tells you why Rotary. But it tells you why Rotary, transparent, accountable, doesn't use a lot of the funds for administrative work. And that's because we're volunteers. Except for the administration in Evanston, we're largely volunteers. Stewardship, the use of funds, the leadership adapts to change. So we've seen change in the grant structure recently. It didn't occur to me until I looked at it again this morning that this is one of the few foundations that gives back money to donors. And we're going to come back to that. And I would challenge you to go to the Charity Navigator and plug in some of your favorite charities. There's some charities about town international, just see how they compare. Won't call any names, but you might want to go there. Why the TRF? So this tells us for 2019 to 2020, so that's last year, working on this year's funds. This is how much money was contributed. And then it tells us how much went out, how much came in. Sorry, I only did the slide with the contribution, how much came in, right? So when I saw this, I said, what went into the district designated funds for us last year? Because they don't have the current year's figures as yet, because Rotary is transparent. Let me see if I can find that, and I did. We have that, myrotary.org. I went and our district got, last year, cumulatively, we had to spend on district designated funds $221,000, right? So this is one of the few charities, foundations that actually give back to the donors to say, go ahead and do some of the good work. So this is why the foundation. And then this slide just emphasizes that, because if it takes, sometimes we like to see we're giving, but what we get in return, this is to emphasize that this is the policy of the TRF. That donations that go to the annual fund share in 3 years, it's invested, and in 3 years, a portion of that is returned as district designated funds, and the rest goes to do goodwill in the world. All right then. So hopefully we know why the Rotary Foundation, because there are a lot of foundations that exist. There are a lot of things we could give to. But if we really understand the Rotary Foundation and we're thinking about leaving a gift, isn't that a worthy foundation, a worthy charity? So there was a comment in the group, I think yesterday, that said, what a morbid topic. So confession, I actually teach probate and succession, which includes drafting wills, how to make a will, why make a will. And every now and then I have my students do an exercise as to how many persons have wills. Last time they did it in the Bahamas. Well, it was Bahamas and one other territory because of the student mix we had at the time. And a lot of persons do not have wills, a lot. And then one of the things they were supposed to ask is why? And two main answers were, one, I don't have anything to give, which is a fallacy. But we're not teaching law school today, but it's a fallacy. And I can tell you many reasons, because when you die, you don't know what you're gonna die with. You don't know what will come to you just before you die. If you say you get to death and you have nothing to give. And two, but it's because of the demographics, a lot of the students are young. So they were speaking to persons just about their age, some in their family. And they said, well, I don't think we're going to die for now. So this is my side. We don't know. There's a time to be born and there's a time to die, but we don't know when we're going to die. And we saw that especially in the last year and some with COVID. And we're closer to death today than we were yesterday. So it's morbid, but it's inevitable. So you know what, you do the best you can do and you plan for it. And then the question is, so if you don't leave it for somebody, you're planning to use it, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to miss it. Your dependents may not miss it. And so in this early morning, I'm asking you to seriously think about, will it matter that much if you leave a legacy to a charity, to an organization that's doing some of the good works that you put in the chat, that's doing something to do with literacy, that's doing something to do with youth, providing safe house for domestic violence, providing for women in crisis, dealing with peace and conflict resolution? Isn't that a great legacy? And it won't cost much. The donation is up to you. Do you think your dependents would make a better use, or would they need all of the funds that you will have to leave behind? Think about it. Serious question. So if you do plan to leave a legacy, if you do plan to leave a gift that keeps on giving, and that's what the Rotary Foundation has proven itself to be, then there are two ways that you can do that outside of giving while you're alive. And we know that we've had presentations on that. We're Paul Harris Fellows and we're making gifts while we're alive. We're making injections, capital injections while we're alive. So what about when we die? So there are two ways I'm going to discuss this morning. Beneficiary designations and by will. So designating the Rotary Foundation. When you see TRF, it's just too long a name. So I put TRF, the Rotary Foundation, as your beneficiary, and putting it in your will. Now, for the lawyers here, you're going to tell me that, you may tell me that some of these designations aren't strictly estates. So I'm really dealing with stuff that happens, that will occur once a person dies, passes on. So the thing with beneficiary designations, I'm talking about things that pass directly on death, and I'm going to contrast this with wills. So if it passes directly on death, it means there's no need to go through probate or administration. There's no holdup. There's no court process. There's no need to update a will. There's no need to incur legal fees, to go to a lawyer, to have a will updated or changed. None of that. So what is it? It's a designation on a new policy or an existing policy or existing benefits. And so common examples are life insurance, pension benefits, annuities, and bank accounts. Often these assets have beneficiaries assigned. And the beneficiaries that are assigned will take over control of the assets. The assets will go to them when the holder of the assets dies, passes. So this is one way that we can leave a benefit to the Rotary Foundation, which will be effective once we die. And this is pretty easy. You go to whoever the holder of the assets is, the institution, and you have a beneficiary designation form. So we know for some people on life insurance policies, they may have a designated beneficiary. Now you do want to consult with a financial institution. There are some, especially if there's a spouse, there might be some prohibition. You may actually need the consent of a spouse if you're going to change the designation, or you might be adding a beneficiary. So you can always add, you can have more than one beneficiaries. If the asset beneficiary is estate, designated estate, then you can always change that. Because if you don't put on a beneficiary on the designation form or with the institution that holds the assets, then it means it's going to have to go to probate or go to administration. So if it says estate, you should be able to change it without worries. The only thing that I would say to you, and say you would speak to the institution about it, is that if one of the beneficiaries on your current life insurance policy is a spouse, then there may be some restrictions on changing it. Otherwise, you can have a new life insurance policy, or if it has other beneficiaries, you can also make Rotary Foundation a beneficiary, so a primary or a contingent beneficiary. Pension assets, annuities, bank accounts, you can make them the beneficiary, primary or contingent. Contingent meaning if the primary beneficiary were to predecease you, were to die before you, then it goes to the Rotary Foundation. Or it could be shared. So you can dictate that there's more than one beneficiary and they have percentage amounts or a dollar allocation. So this is one route to leaving to the foundation and having it effective on one's death. And then you can leave a gift in your will. So if you're going to leave it in a will, my suggestion is to make sure that the will is properly drafted, which might mean consultation with a lawyer. Why is that? Because unless you have told your beneficiaries, and things change in death now, people change after death, you do not want it to be contested, right? But I might know you as a good Rotarian and say it may come as absolutely no surprise. But you want to make sure that if you're leaving a gift to the foundation, that it is in a will that has been properly drafted and that will stand up to any contest. And so you have a properly drafted will, and a properly drafted will, I'll show you a quick example. So a properly drafted will identifies itself as a will, says whose will it is, and then it will do certain things. It will appoint the persons who will be taking care of the property, the estate afterwards, the personal representative, i.e. the executor or executrix, make certain contingencies for payment of debts, and then it starts to leave gifts. And so all you will do is include the Rotary Foundation as one of the beneficiaries. It's important that you use the legal name, which is shown there, the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International. The address would be ideal. What that does is it says there's no doubt as to who the beneficiary is. If it just says Rotary, we don't know if it's Rotary Club of Nassau Sunrise, we don't know if it's Rotary Club of West Nassau, we don't know. And so the gift might fail. And it's really not a Rotary Club you're leaving it to, it's Rotary Foundation. So that you use the full legal name, a full description. And then having done that, you advise or you contact Planned Giving. Now, Planned Giving is the arm, the department in Rotary that actually tracks these gifts. And it is good because if we die all the way out here in the Bahamas, it would be nice if somebody in Evanston would be ready so that when they're contacted, hopefully they will know what is going on, right? It does not mean that you can't change your will. It does not mean that you can't change your beneficiary, or hopefully persons won't. But the process is you draft a will, you leave it to the Rotary Foundation, and you advise Planned Giving. This also helps them to monitor. This is also what helps them to be proper stewards. This, if anything arises, they have some record of it. Or you might just want to contact them before you actually go down this path. this is what it would look like. So I toyed between giving you a baby version and a full version. And I came in with a in-between version of what a clause would look like in a will. And so basically you would give to the organization. And again, you want to set out the full name of the organization. Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, that name is sort of protected and it's clear. And once you give the address, that's who it is. I tell you something I just came across. Somebody recently contacted me because they set up this foundation, a feeding foundation, and they wanted my support. Somebody who knows very well that I'm in Rotary and knows very well that we have feeding programs. So I haven't responded yet. But what surprised me was I saw the name, and then on the radio a day later, I heard that because the name sounded familiar, but it was a new charity. I heard that exact name as a charity of an organization that existed some time ago. And I'm talking about this is in the Bahamas. They have been doing the exact same work with the exact same name for the past few years, right? So I say that to say, if somebody were to leave something to an organization with that name, then unless the description is really, really specific, you won't know which organization it refers to. So you really do want to make sure that you're using Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, the proper description. And then you say how much you want to leave. I thought that, oh, the comma is in the wrong place. I thought I'd just leave like $500,000. You can do these things when you're making them up, you know? So I just thought, just leave a little bit, $500,000. And then you say where it's coming from. Well, it's supposed to be Sunrise, the Sunrise Bank, or it can come out of the residuary estate. And that is a matter of construction, meaning of how the will is going to be interpreted. The last part that I gave you, you really don't need, but I figure since, let me just be a little bit complete. And this is just to say, I hereby declare that the receipt of the treasurer or the proper officer, blah, 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 shall be a sufficient discharge. All this means is once it goes to Rotary and Rotary acknowledges receipt of it, your personal representative won't have to do anything else. All they need to do is make sure this money gets over to whoever is in charge of this Rotary Foundation, the trustees at the time. So I pulled this will. So that is the clause. And just because this is how my mind works, I just like to see a full will and where it would fall within the will. So actually, so I tell you, I teach making of wills. I teach how wills are to be drafted. And I always ask students to give a sum to a charity. Usually it's Rotary. So I don't give them, this is a very basic will. This is, so I've been tampering with this will when I do presentations on will, to just give people a very basic will, because the truth is persons ought to consult an attorney, although they don't need to. And so you will just see how the will is set out, the name, whose it is, who you're making as the executor, any other provisions you want, if you have minor children where you want to be buried, and the gifts. And so the example that would be similar to us will be the gift to the Holy Redeemed Apostolic Methodist Church. Because people over time, they give gifts to different charities, they give gifts to their churches. So it's really not a difficult thing. But if you further need help, this is available for you online.
Charitable bequest, also known as a gift through your will or trust. It sounds a bit regal. Actually, a bequest is well within reach for all of us. It's simply a gift through your will or trust, and it's the easiest way for you to support our mission and make a lasting statement about what matters most to you. Money, securities, property, gifts through your will can come in all shapes and sizes. Well, just about. The point is, you don't have to be a king or queen to make a big difference. Large or small, the most meaningful gifts come from people like you who deeply care about the work we are doing and want to ensure it continues well into the future. Providing for our organization in your will or trust won't cost you a penny or even a crown jewel during your lifetime. You'll have complete control over your assets, and you can change your gift at any time. After your lifetime, If your estate is subject to estate tax, your gift is entitled to an estate tax charitable deduction for the gift's full value. And when we eventually benefit from your final act of generosity, we'll hold your legacy in the highest esteem, because you are and always will be royalty to us. Want to learn more about how you can continue to do noble deeds even after you're gone? Download our brochure, A Guide to Making Your Will, from this webpage, or contact us directly. We're happy to answer your questions and will help you take care of the details, even polishing your crown. The information in this material is not intended for tax or charitable bequest.
All right, so I actually took that from planned giving if you want to give more, but there's a point that I want to emphasize, which the video also spoke to. Everybody has something to give. I mean, I tell you, I teach the making of wills. I need to figure out if my will is still good, but the making of wills. And sometimes we don't know when we're gonna die. And sometimes people come into money just before they die and make absolutely no provision for it. I will give is if there is an accident, let's say there's a fatal accident, somebody dies as a result of an accident. If the person who caused the accident is still alive, even if they're not alive, they can be sued. And there can be money coming to the estate of the person who died. That's one way. Of course, we could also win something from Island Luck or somebody just before we die. So the truth is, you really, really never know. You do want to do some estate planning. You do want to make sure you have your affairs in order. And so today's conversation was, when you think about it, there's something that you can give. Even if you don't see it immediately, so for example, the clause I gave you said the money is coming from a bank account. That's just a drafting style. It has some legal consequence, but you do not need to draft your will like foundation. There's something that will happen when you die. The personal representatives will be instructed how to find that $1,000. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about the Rotary Foundation, about planned giving, you can find all of that online. And then if you go to this link, it actually takes you through a template. Now it's American, no? It's slanted American, but the method of drafting is the same as would be applicable to us. This is my last video.
Raindrops fall from the sky.
About it.
They may be small, but together they make a mighty ocean. In the same way, your commitment to doing good in the world enables the Rotary Foundation to fund the projects that you care about. Last year, even during a pandemic, hundreds of donors like you gave more than $40 million. Your generosity allowed the foundation to fund more than 2,000 global grants, creating opportunities for people everywhere to respond to their community's unique needs. A $15 donation could buy polio vaccines. A water filter cost only $50, and $100 could provide COVID-19 training. You supported causes such as fighting disease, building strong communities, and promoting lasting peace. So whether you gave $1 or $1 million, you gave help and hope. The people whose lives you've touched, the families, the parents, the children, thank you. And so do we.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for considering leaving a legacy. I know sometimes we don't think that that's within our means. That's something that some other people do, in their estate planning, but we all can estate plan. And it's very easy if you want to donate from your estate to the foundation. If you have existing policies, pension benefits, it doesn't mean you're going to cut out those nearest and dear to you. You can actually add Rotary as a beneficiary. Alternatively, you can, if you already have a will, update your will, or if you don't, draft a will and leave some benefit to the Rotary Foundation. And in doing so, you will get to know that you leave, and you leave a legacy, and some of the good things that you wanted to see done while you're alive, those will be enabled because of your gift. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'll take them.
Yes, I have a quick question, E.G. Carla. What if you want to leave an asset to on your will? You have a will and you want to leave an asset to the foundation. Would you have to sell the asset, or would the foundation use the asset in rather than just monetary funds?
So no, so you don't have to sell the asset actually, and that's interesting. So you can assign or transfer the asset to them. Actually, in the States, they do that because they get certain rebates and tax deductions as a result. And that structure is not in place for us. But you can do that. I'm assuming you mean you would do that while you're alive, right? So you're saying not after you die, while you're alive.
Yeah, while you're alive, in your will, you want to leave a building, let's say a building to the foundation. Is that possible?
Right. Okay. So in your will, talk about money, you will leave anything. While you're alive, you can leave property to them. You can assign real estate. So if you actually go to planned giving, that's one of the areas, but I didn't pick it up because I didn't think I would be dealing with that. But you can leave real estate. They mentioned that specifically, and they tell you how you can leave it. And you can also leave that in your will because the real estate has value. So any asset should be left in the will. So I probably should not have limited it to a cash donation. And you can leave that while you're alive, and you can do that after you die.
Right. Just for clarity, A.G. Carla, you mentioned updating the will. Could you explain how they could do that without having to draft and intact? Because someone might be thinking, I already have my will. You're sending me back to pay legal fees to do over or to update my will. Could you explain how they could use a codicil to make that adjustment?
Okay. You'll still have to pay legal fees. I would advise that you do, because if you have a will, you want the attorney to look to see what the will says before you make any additions to it. And so you can do it one of two ways. You can make a totally new will to capture now your new thoughts, because in doing this, there might be something else in your life that has changed, and so it made sense to do a new will. So you revoke the old will and do a new will. Alternatively, there's something called a codicil, which you've referred to, which is a supplemental document, but it stands as a will on its own. And so all it says is the will that you have existing is in place, and everything will take place as is in that will, except here's an additional clause, and it's called a codicil. So the codicil is really a supplement to a will. It can stand on its own, but it supplements a will. So you don't have to change the entire first will. A codicil is useful, especially if the first will is a bit complicated. So you don't want to mess or tamper with it. And a codicil is useful if you're only doing one thing. So if all you're doing is adding a gift to a particular person, in this case, the Rotary Foundation, then a codicil is very useful. So you'll just have two documents going in as your one will. Thanks, Donna.
Yeah, so that could save some cost to the person.
It would.
Right.
But I would still advise that you take in your first will, so that the attorney can have a look at it to make sure that the codicil lines up properly, because the codicil also, because it's a supplement to the existing will, it ought to refer to the existing will. And so yes, it will be less cost because you're not redrafting, but the attorney should see it. Any other
Good
questions?
Presentation. I just I've seen a few wills that are actually not valid because they weren't executed properly. Not to extend the meeting, but just quickly, if they're going to prepare the will at home themselves, although I don't recommend that the will has to be executed a particular way. Just touch on that for a minute.
Okay. So for a will to be valid, it does have to be executed in a certain way. So quite a different, apart from the drafting and the naming of the beneficiaries is really important, right? Because if your will is valid and they can't identify the proper beneficiary, your gift fails, meaning it doesn't get to them. But having properly drafted your will, it has to be executed. What does that mean? You need two, and they should be independent witnesses. So when the person, we call them the testator or the testatrix, the person whose will it is, they must sign in front of two persons who know that they're signing a will and who can see them signing it. And those two persons must not be beneficiaries under the will. If they're beneficiaries under the will, they're going to lose their gift. The will is going to stand, but they won't get anything under the will. So you want two independent persons. And you want two persons who have some credibility, because the reason for the two witnesses is they need to say that one, they saw you sign and that you look like you knew what you were doing. Just to break down the law, that you knew what the contents were, you understood what you were doing. If anything is contested, that you did it on your own volition, right? So they need to be able to say that they saw you sign. Without going too much in the law, ideally, what I'd recommend if somebody's going to try and do this on their own is to just to have the three person there all the time. So the testator is going to sign before the witnesses sign. It's the testator's will. It's the person's will, so they have to sign first. Have to sign first. The witnesses can't witness if the person hasn't signed. And if they do, then the will is invalid. So the person whose will it is has to sign first. The two people watching him or her sign. And then one of them will sign, and then the testator is watching him, the other witness is watching him, and then the other witness signs. The testator is watching him, the testator meaning the person whose will it is, or testatrix if it's a female, and then making sure that they also see the witness sign. So basically you want to have everybody, so the three persons, everybody watching each other sign, and it happens at the same time, meaning in the same event. So the testator signs, then one witness signs, then the other witness signs. And then what will happen is when the testator dies and it has to go to probate, then those witnesses have to be found to give an affidavit to say what happened. And they basically have to say that it happened in that way, that the testator signed, they saw him sign, they saw his signature, he looked like he knew what he was doing, and then they signed. If that is not done, then the will is invalid. Strictly speaking, a witness doesn't have to see another witness sign, but you don't want to go down that road. So if it's a lay person doing it, let the three person be there and everybody sees what everybody is doing. And then you would have a validly executed will. You don't want to go through all of that just to hear that the will is invalid, because when you're dead and gone, you really can't get back up and say, oh, let me sign that, hold on. It's done. So you really don't want to go through that. Yes, probate is necessary, very necessary with a will. Once you have a will, there ought to be probate. Nobody should be tampering with the assets. We know people ignore that and then just go into the house and they take the things, but probate is necessary with a will. And that's the purpose of it. It also helps, so, I mean, I mentioned casually, suppose somebody dies in the hospital from a doctor's negligence and you want to sue. These are the things you don't think about, but it helps because it helps to identify who will be responsible for the person. What the executor does is they step in the shoes of the deceased person. So this is the person that is going to take charge of the estate and that will do anything that the testator could have done had the testator been alive. So you have to think about, you don't know what will happen. So, and probate enables that process. And so if the person is going to sue, you need probate. You need to show that the court has given a grant of probate to the person who is entitled to it. So that's for a will. If the person dies leaving a will, we call it letters of administration, and it's the same thing. So the court has to identify somebody who can act on behalf of the deceased, who can authorize the distribution of assets of the deceased. If the deceased died leaving land and just never left any will, somebody has to be able to do that. And so what probate and letters of administration really is to get the court's approval and sort of monitoring that these persons are the persons who are responsible now that the deceased has died. So that was an answer to your question, Simone. Probate is necessary with a will. And letters of administration if you don't have a will.
Mr. President, may I ask a question?
Sure. Is it going to affect my estate? But go ahead, PDG.
So for the opportunity to save legal expenses, if a man wants to write his will and his wife is a lawyer, would you recommend that man asks his wife to write the will?
You could, but there's another principle in law. There's a principle in law about the lawyer writing a will. A lawyer who writes a will ought not to be a beneficiary under the will.
So
I was shaking my head because I don't want him to leave you out of his will.
Because they will be subject to disciplinary proceedings. So unless your intention is to leave your wife out of the will, then you wouldn't want your wife, who is a lawyer, to write the will.
So will you write my will?
President Therese is after 8 o'clock.
You can seek independent advice. I'm here to help you.
But truthfully, with this discussion, because I do presentations and it always takes a long time about wills and will making, and you have done it, you have me. We could actually do something as a club for the community if you want, or we could just do something in-house for the club.
Yeah, I think the community needs it. I see too many failed wills and it hurts, you know? So I think it's something that people in general need to know.
So we can do that as a community service project. It doesn't need to be a webinar. We could do that.
I think it's needed.
Yes, it is needed.
No problem.
Thank you very much, AG Carla. I'd like to invite Father Palacios to give a vote of thanks for this morning.
Yes, thank you very much.
Carla.
You're most welcome.
I personally appreciate your talk this morning, Carla. And I could see why my homeboy Felix married you, but don't do up that will. That means you ain't on it. And things looking a little good now. Before I preach at funerals, I often give several remarks, one of which is make sure you take good care of your health, especially men. Do up a will. And I always encourage people to leave.
No, I got it on my phone.
Leave assets to charitable organizations. In the Bahamas, we often believe that to be included in somebody's will, the person must be a rich white person, non-Bahamian. But I try to tell people that even $500 or $200, whatever it is, you give according to your means. And it is indicative of the fact that as you cared for these organizations in your lifetime, you would want to do it in your death. So thank you very much for reminding us about that. I'm reminded of the story of this man who was dying. I'm sure you might have heard it. He said, Martha, I would like to give the car to Johnny. He said, Johnny doesn't need that car. Leave it to Sue. Okay, give the car to Sue. All right, and give the house to Mary. Mary doesn't need that car, that house. She has to have a big family, blah, blah, blah. And everything he said, she objected to. So it got to the point where he said, Martha, who is dying, you or me? So I'm saying all that to say, let's do it right by our schools, our civic groups, in this case, Rotary Foundation or the Rotary Club, and of course, do whatever we can. Stay safe, make it up properly, so that there's no doubt as to where we'd like our assets to go. And I could say that many of us, as a result of this, I'm sure, are more motivated to give through our will to Rotary Foundation. So I thank you very, very much for a very simple, but very profound presentation that we could all understand. Thank you again. I could see why Felix married you now.
Just please don't let him leave me out of the will. Please talk to your homeboy.
You're all right.
Thank you, Father P. I agree, it was an excellent presentation. Thank you, AG Carla, for presenting this morning. I'd like to, as we wrap up our program for this morning, invite Tanisha back to give a raffle drawing this morning, please. Thank you.
Morning, everyone, again. Going to share my screen. Here we go. Just going to do a nice scroll down to make sure I have everyone.
If I even I could put it in my bill.
Okay, so we're going to shuffle. There we go.
Yes.
All right.
You're really gonna put this in your will? I'll keep it for you until you're ready.
Not fair.
He said it. He said it.
So
who will be the
beneficiary?
2 weeks in a row.
Spin it again. Not fair.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Felix. All right, we'll now have our four-way test by Rotarian tomorrow.
Good morning, everyone. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will
it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial
to all concerned?
Tomorrow, sounds like you know that by heart. Congratulations. Oh, what are you reading?
And the final toast by P.P. Leroy.
Let us raise our glasses and our cups to Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world.
Have a good week, guys.
All right, thank you very much for coming.